Quick story time, y'all. Before we get into the video, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment and let me know what you think about this video. So I took my daughter Malaya to the playground, which I always do. Almost every day we go to the playground. And I'm sitting there and there was nobody at the playground. When I say I was so happy, because those times I'm able to record and do like vlogs or even record my regular content for courses and my podcast, and just gives me a opportunity to do what I love to do while my daughter gets to play on the playground. Well, I thought there was nobody at the playground, and there was a lady that was there with her daughter, and her daughter had like a lizard or something like that, and she was walking around the playground with her lizard. So now I'm really watching my daughter because this little girl has a lizard. So the mom walks up to me and she started talking to me, and she's like, hey, she asking me about the area where the playground is, and she was like, people are a little standoffish over here, and so I was just sharing my experience. My experience isn't the same as what she was talking about. So then she proceeds to tell me that, she said, do you live around here? And I said, I live not right around the corner, but I live like 5 minutes away. So I asked her, like, do you live around here? And she ends up telling me that actually I'm living in my car. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm sorry, so she gets to talking. She was like, it's okay, God is gonna bring me out of this. I'm not ashamed, and da da da. And she was like, I said, where are you from originally? Are you from Charlotte? And she said, no. And she was like, I think she said she's from Illinois. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm from Indiana. Like, they're right next door to each other. I'm very familiar with Illinois. She ends up telling me that she left some of her kids back home. And so this particular daughter she has with her here in Charlotte, she was like, but I'm believing God, I'm gonna get my kids back. And so I'm sitting here listening to her talk and not judging or anything. I'm actually just waiting for an opportunity to minister or to encourage her. That's all I was doing. She ends up like talking to me and asking me questions, not asking me questions, but kind of just trying to spark conversation. So we started talking. Started telling her about, the different struggles me and my family went through as we like leading up to moving to Charlotte, and even being in Charlotte during the pandemic, and how God is, faithful, and how he'll never leave us or forsake us. I'm just like encouraging her, letting her know you're going to get out of this. You're going to get through this. So then she starts to talk to me, and she was like, can I pray for no, she didn't say, can I pray for your daughter? She started just prophesying. So she started prophesying, and she was like, by this time, she's a little loud enough for other people to hear. And now at this point, other parents are like, a couple other parents ended up coming into the playground. And I'm like, okay, all right, because I'm like, I don't know you. I'm trying to, test the spirit by the spirit. I don't know you, but I'm letting you talk, letting you use your gift. He said something that I particularly don't believe there was any type of confirmation or warning. It was just like, I think it was flesh at that point. After a minute, I said, listen, can I be a blessing to you? I said, you've been encouraging, and as I was encouraging you, you were encouraging me. And I said, I know this storm that you're in is going to pass, and I love your faith. I love your perspective on how you're going to get through this. And I said, but I want to be a blessing to you. And I said, can I buy you all something to eat? Can I take you shopping? Like, I was willing to take them to get toiletries and like women's needs and all of the things that people need, on a daily basis. And she said, no. She said, we don't have enough storage for that. And I'm thinking, wow, you don't even know it was just like sanitary napkins, tampons, whatever the case, toothpaste, things like that. I just wanted to be a help that way. I've had past experiences when I've given people who were homeless and I give them money, that's not what they go use it for. And I'm not trying to I know some people feel like, oh, well, you're just supposed to just be obedient and be the blessing. Yeah. But I want to also help you. I want to help you out of this situation. And I also told her that my husband, I was like, he's a real resourceful person. And I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if my husband has any resources on shelter. She was like, okay. So we exchanged numbers. And I said, if I get any information, I'll be sure to text you. I said, well, can I buy y'all something to eat? I said, I'm about to take my daughter for lunch. She wants pizza. I was like, do y'all want pizza? If you don't want pizza, I'll take you somewhere else. She was like, no, pizza's fine. And so I was like, okay. So we still proceeded to talk, and then we ended up leaving, and she followed me to Quick Trip. Quick Trip has some great pizza, y'all. So they have a kiosk, and my daughter, she walks up to the kiosk, she ordered her food, and I told them, I said, feel free, order what you want. If you want more than one pizza, order that. Like, I just wanted to be a blessing. Got them some stuff to drink. You know, I'm like to stay hydrated because it was kind of hot. Let me backtrack. Her teeth, not judging her, but her teeth, it does look like she might have been, she used to use some type of substance. All right. She's definitely been I'll say a user. She mentioned her teeth and different things like that. I was like, girl, I'm not thinking about that. And I wasn't. She was like, I lost my dentures, and you know, it's just been a lot going on. And I get it. It can be a lot going on. Life is life for everybody. But there was something in my spirit once we got to the gas station to get the food, and I asked, I said, do y'all want to sit here and eat? I would love to, because it's like a picnic table. I was like, y'all want to sit here and eat? I would have loved to just break bread with them. And she was like, no. I said, okay, well, I got to go pick up my other daughter from work. And I said, listen, you be blessed. I'll be in touch if my husband has any resources. She ends up texting me later that day, about maybe 2.5 hours later, and she's like, hey, can you Apple Pay me? I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? I never responded. And in the moment that she texted me, I couldn't respond because I was occupied at that moment. I could not respond. I went back to reread the message. I'm like, she says she lost her teeth. I want to say she said medicine, something, whatever. And she was like, and I need $10 to get it. I just did not feel a release to give her cash. I felt guilty the entire evening, but she kept blowing my phone up. And that at that point, I'm like, I don't know. So I literally heard the Holy Spirit say, you did the right thing. I took you to get something to eat, drink. I even offered to go help you go shopping for some things. I tried to do what I could just to be a blessing. But I'm learning not to overcompensate me being a giver. And I've experienced a lot of people like walking over me or taking advantage of my generosity. The whole point of me mentioning that is that I didn't feel a peace about sending her cash. I've heard them types of excuses before. And come to find out, she's been hustling people at the playground. You don't want to be so spiritually minded that you're so heavenly minded that you're no earthly good. You got to use your common sense and your discernment in situations like that, because I definitely had to. Yeah, that was my experience at the playground. Never had experience like that at the playground. In fact, the only time I really, when growing up in the church and working with my dad, my dad was good at ministering to the homeless, and many times he's taken them, instead of giving them money, he paid for them for their rehab. So that was my experience. Have y'all ever had any experiences like that? Be sure to like and subscribe for more stories. I got so many things to talk about, y'all, on here. I'm so excited about like just continuing to talk on YouTube. This is gonna be my happy place. So I'll talk to you later. See you on the next video.